Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg, where he's been teaching us Genesis now going on a couple of years. It's been exciting, always lots to learn, and it's just a joy to hear the light of Torah shining on the nation of Israel. We're joined, as always, by many people in the Zoom room. We've got our friend Anna Hansen in Norway, our friend Netzak in, I believe he's in the Czech Republic. And of course, the McConaugheys. We've got the McConaugheys, Angela and Mike over in the UK. Linda Allen, Jack Klundert, I'm not familiar with. Nice to meet you, Jack, and many, many, many more. Plus, of course, Rabbi Goldberg. So let's just jump right in and see how the rabbi's doing. We missed you last week, Rabbi Goldberg, because we didn't have a class, but always good when we do. So you're live on the air, sir.
Good evening, everybody from Israel. Everything is fine. We have a bit of a COVID situation here, but hopefully, or thank God, it's. I'm not sure that the government is not controlling it, but God is controlling it. I don't know how to say it. Everything is fine. Yes, I also missed it last week, but now we are together. I think that I had good questions from the last week episode that we had together. And I want to address them, but I prefer to start with learning, and then we will have time to chat and to discuss things and other things that we're doing. So let's dive inside straight ahead to learn from the Bible, from where we are, to continue on from the things that we are. And later on, we'll have also time to discuss issues or things that are being raised up. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we explained the thing of faith and how exactly the Hebrew nation is running with this thing of faith. And we explained that we saw, let me share the screen for a moment. We saw that in the Hebrew tradition, the faith is not, do we believe in God or don't believe in God? As we say here, that Abraham believed in God, and God accounted it to him as a righteousness. So the word faith in Hebrew, in the source of it, is, do we believe that God who promised things will fulfill them? And we will manage to see those things. This is also the difference between the fathers and the kids, I will say it like that. The kids of Israel. The fathers of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all three of them, and each one of them had a different role in his position, but all three of them together are bringing us the fathers of the Hebrew nation, like we have also four mothers. And those three fathers got a lot of promises, but the fulfillment of those promises is only in the Hebrew kids, in the Hebrew people. I will show this for a moment in another place. I didn't prepare this, sorry. Let's go to Exodus chapter 6, and we can read it for a moment in the. Excellent. If Dan, if you can read the verse number 3 for a moment, please.
3. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob with the name Almighty God, I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob with the name Almighty God, but with my name, Yahweh, I did not become known to them.
Now, let's see for a moment what Rashi is explaining to us.
This is critical, sure. I appeared to the forefathers with the name Almighty God. I had made promises to them, in all of which I said to them, I am the Almighty God. But with my name,
Yehovah,
I did not become known to them. It is not written here, but my name, Jehovah, I
Don't
did
get
not.
it's a bit complicated, but it's explaining here. It's something that is related to Hebrew. Read this.
My
My
name is
name.
called Jehovah, which means that I am faithful to verify my words, for I made promises to them, but I did not fulfill them while they were alive.
They got a lot of promises. The promises was that they will have kids, okay, nation, and that they are going to be in this land of the Canaan land. But I never fulfilled what I promised them. Okay, so the fathers, those are those who are getting the promises, and the kids of the Israeli nation, those who are fulfilling those promises. Those are two differences, eras. Now, when we're speaking about belief, the understanding of this is that Abraham is believing God that he will fulfill his promises. This is the word belief. And we saw that there are a few ways how to understand and to realize that God is hidden inside this world. One of them we showed last time with the Kuzarit, with the history. The other one, and the other two, I'm not going to show too much because I want to continue on with Genesis, but there's also the Maimonides who is explaining that it is by looking on the nature, laws of nature, what is happening, this great nature, everything that is combined together and working very great one with each other. This is also another way that God has written some sort of a book, okay, in front of us that when we are reading it, we can see God in behind those laws and everything that is organized. So those are two books that we have. Another book that we have is related also to the inner insight that we have inside ourselves. But this is very complicated, how to clean up everything to start to listen what is happening inside us, because there is a spark of God, the soul of God that is related with God, that is inside us. We just need to listen to that. This is very hard. It's not for everybody, or it's not so easy to come to this stage. And there's also, of course, the Torah, the Bible itself. In the Bible itself also, there are ways how to learn it, but this is where we're going to continue on, and we're going to learn the next verses of the Bible. And after we saw that God is saying to Abraham, now, just a moment, let's be clear, okay? At this stage, Abraham is not yet full in his full name. Abraham is only in the name of Abram, okay? Remember that? We spoke about this a few times. When he will change his name, his purpose of life, he will have kids. At this point, he didn't change. God didn't change his name. Therefore, he have difficulties, I will say, to realize that he will have kids. And this is what he's saying to God. What I see in the astrologies, what I see in the nature of mind, what I see in my purpose of life, that I don't have any destinies, I don't have any kids. I'm alone. The only one who can continue after me is Eliezer of Damascus. And God is saying to him, he's not going to inherit you, and you're going to change your name, and this is where you're going to have kids. And Abraham is believing God, okay? And what God promised him, he promised him two things. He promised him this land, and he promised him also that he will have kids. And now we are a bit surprised, okay? So what we need now is to read for a moment. We need to read it long a bit, okay? From verse 7 till verse to the end of the chapter, and we will say a few, and we will start to dive inside, because tonight we're going to
Awesome.
Change some main understanding, all totally different than the logic of the Christian world. So please, let's read from 7 till the end. loud and clear. We have time.
All right. Verse 7. And he said to him, I am the Lord who brought you forth from Ur of the Chaldees to give you this land to inherit it. And he said, O Lord, how will I know that I will inherit it? And he said to him, Take for me 3 heifers and 3 goats and 3 rams and a turtle dove and a young bird. And he took for him all these, and he divided them in the middle, and he placed each part opposite its mate, but he did not divide the birds. And the birds of prey descended upon the carcasses, and Abraham drove them away. Now the sun was ready to set, and a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and behold, a fright, a great darkness was falling upon him. And he said to Abram, you shall surely know that your seed will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and they will enslave them and oppress them for 400 years. And also the nation that they will serve will I judge, and afterwards they will go forth with great possessions. But you will come to your forefathers in peace. You will be buried in a good old age. And the 4th generation will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites will not be complete until then. Now it will come to pass that the sun had set, and it was dark, and behold, a smoking furnace and a firebrand which passed between these parts. On that day the Lord formed a covenant with Abraham, saying, To your seed I have given this land, from the river of Egypt until the great river, the Euphrates rivers, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaim, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites.
So we have here a few points that we need to start to realize. And I want to start, first of all, the first point I want to start is that when we are reading it in a careful way, we are looking exactly what is happening here, we see that it's a one-way ticket. God did some sort of covenant with Abraham, but we never see that Abraham did a covenant with God. Look good exactly what is happening here. If we will read again verse number 18, at that day, God, yes, you can read it, please.
On that day, the Lord formed a covenant with Abram, saying,
Who is forming the covenant? God is forming the covenant. It's not two ways covenant. By the way, all over the Genesis, we have 7 covenants between God and the fathers of the Israelite people, of the Hebrew people. And in all of them, it's only one-way covenant. Now, this is the first point we must mention at the beginning. It's really, I will say, it's not a mistake that in the 13th century, the fathers of the Christian world, the Pope and all of these people, decided that nobody is supposed to read the Old Testament. Because when you read this, and you understand that this is a one-way ticket, God did a covenant with the fathers, with the Hebrew nation, like you can't say that God is changing, so this covenant is not going to be changed. This is point number 1 that we must realize, we must understand. This is not a two-way covenant. So if Abraham will change, or will decide not to do this covenant, or will decide not to behave, or his destinies, or his kids will decide not to behave in the right way, so the covenant will break down. No, it's a one-way covenant. One-way covenant, the meaning of it is God decided to do a covenant with this nation. With
and he's
people.
faithful.
And that's it. Just like God is alive, all of this world, and he is here forever. And the same thing, this covenant is forever. That's it. Now, when you read this in the right way, the right words, this is what's written down, you're starting to understand that this covenant is not going to be changed. Now, I'm going to explain a lot of things here tonight that are not in the right mindset of the Christian world, okay? I'm going to explain another very important thing here. And I know that it's different than the mindset of the Christian world, but this is how we learn this Bible. And again, when we are looking today, I will say that the return of the Israelite people to their Hebrew land after 2,000 years did a very big shake, a very big questioning to the Christian world, because suddenly what Jean-Jacques Rousseau said in the 17th century, that we need to learn from the Hebrew how they are learning the Bible, suddenly it is appear that maybe we are learning it in the right way. After all, we came back to our own land. The next thing that is a bit shocking to see is when we're studying this thing, is that we see on one side that Abraham believes in the words of God, okay, and even more than that, God is holding Abraham as a righteousness because he believed in God. And when God is saying to him, I brought you out from the Ur of the Chaldeans, and I'm giving you this land to inherit it, we are very surprised suddenly to see that Abraham is doubting it. Verse number 8, Abraham said, how will I know that I will inherit it? Now, this is a bit surprising, because a minute ago, you can hear me, everything is fine? Okay. A minute ago, we said that Abraham believes in God. And suddenly, he's asking God, how can you promise me that I will inherit this land? Mistakenly, a lot of people thought, okay, that this question is doubting God. You can't say that, because a minute ago, 2 verses before, we said that Abraham is not doubting at all. So what exactly is hiding inside this question? What exactly is hiding inside this question? The main thing that is going inside here is the main problem, maybe my kids, maybe my destiny, maybe the people that will come after me, my nation, will do some sins, and you will decide to throw them out from this land. Now, we saw this. It happened. It happened 3 times in the history. In the beginning, it happened in Egypt, as it's being mentioned in this chapter. Then it happened also in Babylon. And then it also happened all over the world. But for realizing exactly what is going here, so let's go in a few levels. Let's go, first of all, in the first simple level. Abraham is saying to God, who said that they're going to have the righteous behavior to inherit the land? And this is what God is answering him, that they are going to get this because they know how to sacrifice the right things in front of God. As we have learning in the Leviticus book, the 3rd Leviticus, they're getting all the exact measurement, exactly what to do, how to do everything else. And when they have the Temple Mount, they know how to sacrifice in front of God. And this is why they're going to get this land. And this is what he's answering him. And God said to him back, take for me 3 ephors, 3 goats, and 3 rams. Those are things that you're going to sacrifice later on in the Temple Mount. And see, this is where Abraham is saying to him, fine. I'm saying here things that we got in the oral Bible, okay? It's not written down. So Abraham is saying to God, okay, fine, but there will be also times that the Temple Mount won't be built up and the Hebrew people won't do sacrificing. So how are they going to have the ability or the thing to be to stay in this land? And God is saying to him something a bit I will say, different than what we realize. And he's saying to him, they will learn those halachot, those things to do, and this is how they're going to inherit back this land. This is more or less on the first surface of what is happening here. Abraham is asking him, give me more understanding how they're going to have this connection with the land. And God is answering him because of the sacrifice that they're going to do or they're going to learn. But I want to go to another step. And this is how, unfortunately, I have a small book. It's not a small book, it's a very interesting book of a lot of arguments that our sages had between 1100 till 1500 with a lot of Christians. I don't know if you know, but there was a lot of debates between the Hebrew sages, the biggest Hebrew sages, and the Christian people. And
the Ramban.
Here, the Ramban, for example, Yosef Kimchi, the Ben Benisti, it's a book, it's an interesting book. It's really interesting to read it. And one of the main, I will say, differences that there's a lot of debates and questions and discussions between the Hebrew sages and the Christian sages is the question, is it possible that someone is going to do a sin and his kids are going to pay for the sins that the father did? Okay, because the main, I will say it like that, the main fundamental issue of the Christian world is to say that Adam and Eve did a very big sin. Okay, they took a bite from this apple,
and their whole original sin doctrine. Yeah,
we need someone like we are still to today paying for the sin that they did, and we need someone like Jesus that will come and rescue us from the sin that they did. And this is something that in the Hebrew tradition we can't accept. I want to show here a few verses, okay? First of all, I want to show a verse from Deuteronomy. Is that you say it, right? Deuteronomy, by the way, this is something that we're going to read this coming Shabbat, okay? In Deuteronomy, chapter 24, we're going to read in the verses 17 to 24. Okay, here it is. We'll just read verse 16.
16. Fathers shall not be put to death because of sons, nor shall sons be put to death because of fathers. Each man shall be put to death for his own transgression.
Very simple. It's written down, loud and clear. Now we're starting to realize why it was not allowed to learn the Old Testament. It's only the beginning. Go with me. Let's go to another example. Okay, another example. For this, I'm sorry I didn't open it before. Sorry for a moment. Let's see for a moment an example of that. Okay, an example how this is being held.
Second Kings?
King, second, chapter 14. Let's see for a moment. We're speaking about a very important king. His name is Joash, okay? And he was 25 years old. 25 years old. and he did the right in the eyes of God, okay? Not like his father, but there was still something with the problem. And now, please read verses 5 and 6.
5. And it was when the kingdom became well established in his hand that he slew his servants who had assassinated his father. But the sons of the assassins he did not execute, as it is written in the book of the Torah of Moses, which the Lord commanded, saying, Fathers shall not be put to death for the sons, nor shall sons be put to death for the fathers, but each man shall be put to death for his own sin.
You're starting to realize why it wasn't allowed to read this this Old Testament. It's very clear. Adam and Eve did a sin. They're supposed to pay for their sins. It's not related to the sins of all of others. It's not that we are. In a moment, I will explain what happened with Adam and Eve. I'm going to be very, I will say, clear, and I'm not going to hide anything. I'm going to ask on myself things. I'm going to answer. We're going to see how the Hebrew sages learned what is happening in Abraham. But I'm teaching here in the way that it will also express the fundamental ideas of the Hebrew sages and how we got in this oral understanding what to do. What we see here is very clear. Each one of us is paying for his own behavior. No one is paying for the behavior of his fathers. Not it. It won't happen. Okay? This is a principle of the Bible. We can see this again. Now we see here an example of a king, something like 800 years after Moses gave the Bible, and he's quoting a verse that we have in Deuteronomy, okay? In Deuteronomy here 16, that you're not allowed to punish one generation for the sins of the generation before that. Let's read it also in Yechezkel, okay? Let's go and read it also in Yechezkel for a moment. In Yechezkel, you can go to Yechezkel 18. You can read it there also. Read verses 18, 19, and 20.
18. But his father, because he illegally suppressed, committed robbery against his brother, and did what is not good among his people, behold, he shall die for his iniquity. Yet you say, why does the son not bear with the sin of the father? But the son has practiced justice and righteousness. He has kept all my laws, and he carries them out. He shall surely live.
20 also is very important.
And the soul that sins, it shall die. A son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, and a father shall not bear the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon himself, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon himself.
Fine. Of course, the next verse will be that God is waiting that also the wicked men will do repentance and God will accept him and everything else. But first of all, there's a very clear explanation, very clear thing that the principle is the one who is doing the sins is going to pay for the sins that he did. One who is not doing the sins, even though if it's his son or something else, his destiny, he is not going to pay for his sin, for the sins of his father, okay? Every explanation that is trying to roll over from a sin of one generation towards another generation is not acceptable in the Hebrew tradition. This is a very important point. Therefore, now when we are learning with Abraham, okay, when Abraham is saying, how will I know that I will inherit this land? There are people who are trying to explain, okay, that when God is saying to him, you asked, how will you know? This is what you asked, how will you know? Not a problem. Sure, you will surely know, okay? And you're going to get punishment for what you asked, and your kids are going to be slaves for 400 years. This is not the explanation of what's happening here. And I need to explain what is happening here. But one of the explanations that, especially that is coming from, not from the Hebrew tradition, is to try to explain that the reason why we got enslaved for 400 years was because Abraham already asked, or was with a doubt. Abraham wasn't with a doubt. Abraham is asking here something else, and we need to understand what he's asking. I will explain this for a moment. What does have moving from one generation to another generation is not the behavior of one generation, but it's more the characterism from one generation to another generation. I will explain this a bit more. When someone have some sort of characterism and it's inside him, and this is something that is teaching his kids on the same way of characterism, it might bring his kids that they will have much more hard a way to change their way of life, because they already inherited some of the characterism of their fathers. You with me? And this is also what is written down in look good. Look good. I'm going to ask on myself, okay? In chapter, I think it was 20, just a moment. Let me show this. This is now we're going to Exodus, okay? We're going to Exodus. No, it's not 20. Sorry. So it's much farther than that. Okay, so first of all, we need to move to Exodus. And it's not 20, it is 34, 45. You want to find it? Please read verse number 7. I'm asking myself. See,
sure.
Look, I'm so honest with all of you. So I'm not hiding the questions that we have from the Bible and the things that the Bible itself says. Please.
All right. Verse 7 says, preserving loving kindness for thousands, forgiving iniquity and rebellion and sin, yet he does not completely clear of sin. He visits the iniquity of the parents on the children and the children's children to the third and fourth generations.
This is something that is just the opposite of the things that we said till now, right? It says here that God is doing things to the next generation, the fourth generation.
Visiting the iniquity, yeah.
It's just the opposite one. So first of all, see that I'm honest, but this is what we need to learn here. And this is also related very much to the fourth generation of Abraham. Look, again, I'm jumping back to Genesis with Abraham, okay? And what exactly he's saying to him. And the fourth generation will return here. You see, it's the same fourth generation that we're speaking about. Now, again, what I need to explain here, it's very, it's supposed to be very clear. This is how our sages are explaining what is happening here. It is very clear that no one is paying, okay, for the sins of anybody else. Each one is paying for his own sins. The second thing is very clear, that when someone has some sort of a character that he is worshiping God in one way or doing things in life in one way, this is something that he might inherit to his next generation. And then his next generation might have more difficulties to do things differently because they are very related with their parents and they are behaving in a way that the parents taught them. And this is something that can go until fourth generation. But still, each person have the ability it might be even hard for him because of the characters that he's driving from his father, but he have the ability to change his behavior or to control his behavior for good or for bad. And this is what this verse in Genesis is saying, and also what is happening here with Abraham. What exactly Abraham is asking him? He's asking here, let's not forget, Abraham here is not Abraham yet, he's still Abram. And he's saying to him, God is saying to him, listen good, because I'm going to give here another important point that nobody never thought about this. When Adam and Eve did their sin, God threw them out from Eden to the exile, to this world. When Cain killed Abel, God said to him, go forth and forth. He sent him to an exile. When Babylon Tower, people did their sin, God spread them all over the places. So the situation is that all of the humankind, okay, we are feeling unsettled in this world. We are temporary in this world. We know that we are temporary in this world. How the big philosophers said it? They said we have questions about everything in this world, except for one question. We all know that we are going to die at the end of those days. So we are all feeling that we are in an exile. And suddenly, Abraham is learning that he is going to stop this situation with his people, with his kids, with his destiny. He's saying to him, I'm going to give you a place that you're going to feel there at home. You're going to inherit a land. Abraham is so surprised. He's saying to God, are you sure? I'm getting such a big present. We, the Hebrew nation, are going to be the kingdom of priests to all of the world, that we are going to inherit a land, we are going to feel comfortable in this world, and to teach the world the relationship with God, the right relationship with God.
Beautiful.
This is something new for us. Abraham is asking, is it true? How will I know that I will inherit this land? And God is answering him what he's answering him. Now, with Abraham, his character is with this, okay, I got a big present, but am I good enough for getting this present? God is answering, yes, you're good enough. You're going to get this present. Now, if his kids, his destinies, the rest of the generation will continue on to ask this question, for them it's a sin. If they will take this characterism of Abraham to have this doubt and to say to God, oh, come on, we're not worth it. We can't, get this big present. This is where, for us, as the kids of destinies of Abraham, for us, it's a sin. For Abraham, as the first time, it's reasonable to ask this question. And God is answering him, yes, this is what I'm going to do. There's going to be a group here in this world, a nation in this world, that is going to teach the rest of the world how exactly to inherit this place, how exactly to feel comfortable with the relationship.
The whole of the matter. Beautiful, Rabbi.
This is
Rabbi, James has a question
just
or a point.
Just a moment. I will finish the thing and then I will answer the questions, okay?
Very good.
This is the third thing that I'm explaining different than what is happening in the rest of the world. We'll say it like that, okay? All of the world is in the exile. The Hebrew nation have, I will say, a mission of, and this is something that I'm not going to explain very in depth at this point of time. Maybe next time we'll explain this a bit more. The Hebrew nation have a mission of teaching the world in two ways. In one way is by living in a separate place in their homeland as a unique nation, and to teach the world from there how to behave, and all of the world will come inside. And here I'm answering a very important question that James asked me. What do I mean when I'm saying that the Noahide movement is supposed to be connected with Israel? The simple thing is to have a certificate with the rabbis of Israel. The simple thing is to remember that in Israel there's going to be the presence of God with the prophecy. To when you have questions, real questions of life, to go and ask the rabbis in Israel. To remember that in Israel, we're going to build up in Israel the place where we're going to teach the leaders of the Noahide. Israel is a place, as it's written down in the prophecies, that everything is going out. This is one way of teaching the world how to inherit this world. The second way is to go out to the exiles of whom? Of the rest of the world, where they spread out, and to teach them there. Now, from our experience all along history, even if it starts with a good connection with those places outside, it never ends with a good connection, unfortunately. Even with Joseph, let's go for a moment for Joseph in the story of Genesis that we all know, that it starts with a very good connection, and Joseph is giving food for all of the Egyptians and everything else. It's finishing with, as it's written down here, with a place where they are being slaved and being tortured and being everything, and they don't want to let them go out, and they need to go out with a very big punishment for the Egyptians. And then it's going on along history with every place like that. So the main thing is not to do it outside, it's to do it inside in the Hebrew land. This is the main thing. And this is what God is teaching them. So we spoke here about three things that are in a total different way of thought than the rest of the world. And it's not a mistake that in the 13th century, there was a prohibition of reading this Bible. Because when you read this Bible, you are losing the fundamental issues that the Christian world is being built up.
Yeah. Rabbi, can you take a question from YouTube?
Questions. Yes, now it's the time.
Rabbi, I got a question from YouTube from Cassandra Orman. She asks, will the land or earth be renewed? And then she reiterates, when the Mashiach comes, what will happen to this earth and the land, especially in Israel? Will there be peace all over the world? A stabilization of sorts?
The answer is yes. It will be, for the last sentence that you said, there will be a peace and stabilization, as it's written down in the prophets everywhere and everything else, that this is what we are aiming for. And this is one of the things that we are teaching. And if you will say from the beginning, we said that we are more than 2 years, we are teaching Genesis. One of the main things that I'm all the time saying is that just like God, who is giving the permission and the possibility to us, for us to live here in this world, we all of us need to give also the possibility to others to live in this world. It's not easy because the Mishnah is saying, the Mishnah is the oral Bible that we have. It says that each one of us is supposed to say, for me, God created all of this world, not for you, Mike, in England, not for you, Linda, in England, not for you, Dan, in Canada, not for you, James, for me. Don't bother me, But also you need to say that. And we need to know how to learn to live one with each other. Those are the 7 basic laws that are teaching us how to learn how to live one with each other. Now to give also to others the permission of the place to live here. And this is the main thing that we need to do, for we will manage to live here together. And this is one of the main things that I'm teaching. Now, this will happen. Now, if you're asking if it will happen by big change of the world, how exactly the change is going to be, I don't know, because nobody really knows. This is something that the Maimonides have a very interesting say about this. He says those things, we don't know exactly how they will become until they will become. We don't know exactly, okay? Nobody predicted exactly how the Israel state became an Israeli state. Nobody really predicted, even though in the Mekubalim rabbis, what we call the inside rabbis of the Hebrew nation, they have written down 300 years before the state of Israel that it will be at this month and this year. Okay, but it's written down, but nobody really understood it before. After, it happened, we're looking and we say, it's written down. Fair enough. But again, one of the things that the Mekubalim, the inside rabbis of the Hebrew sages are saying all the time, that they are surprised that the things that they taught one to each other, from rabbi to his student, only in oral and without, the secrets and everything else, it happened in front of their lives. I say, this is where the big surprise. It happened. But again, we don't know exactly how those things are happening, but they're happening.
Excellent. Beautiful.
And we believe that the things that the prophets, that God said to the prophets, will happen. This is what we believe, as we explained in the last two lessons. More questions? Yes, I'm here for more questions.
Well, Cassandra's still asking. She says, "And who will live in heaven and earth?" My understanding is that the birthing process will still continue after Mashiach comes, but as far as
I will say it like that. I'll say it like that. There are a few books that are explaining those things, and if we will start to go inside to this issue, first of all, again, most of the rabbis and most of the books are saying we assume X, Y, Z. We can learn this for few lessons, but at the end, everybody is saying we don't really know how those things will happen. So we have Rabbi Saadia Gaon explaining a lot of things. The Kuzari, Rabbi Galevi is explaining things. The Maimonides is explaining things. Rabbi Chazak Rishkash is explaining things. We have few rabbis who are explaining a lot of things, but we don't really know. And they're also themselves saying, we don't really know. I don't think that we need to dive inside to the places where we don't know. I think that we need to put the emphasis on the things that we can change in this world. I will take an example of things, and this is what I'm answering Sandra and whoever is trying to look all the time to those mysterious things. As you all know, I was a high school principal for a very long time. And there were times I was a very unique high school principal for kids with ADD, ADHD, and disabilities and other things. And there were times that we realized that we don't have the tools in my school to help people with bigger disabilities than we usually use. And
yeah, you understood limits, sure.
Much bigger limits that we were dealing with. And we called the parents and we said to them, listen, we are harming him here. It's not good for him to stay with us. Let's together find for him the right place. Now, some of the parents, as an obvious, answer, tried to fight us. You can realize that my staff, my people in my school were very good, nice people, and people wanted very much to stay with us, and they started to fight against us. He's going to stay by you, everything. And we knew that we were going to harm him. So a lot of times, after 2 or 3 days, 2 weeks, something like that, I took the parents to a small, side place, and I said to them, listen, we have a limited
resources,
powers, and resources in our life. You can fight against the school. In my experience, never someone who fighted against the school managed to defeat the school. You can't fight the system. Let's work together with our limited resources to find him a better place. And I'm saying the same thing here. It's very curious to go to all of these mysterious issues and others. But believe me, let's not put all the emphasis and all the resources of our life on those things. Let's work much harder to the things that we can change in this world, and things will happen. This is what's happening in life. Okay?
Yeah,
I hope I was clear enough.
I guess, those, especially those coming out of Christianity, are looking for that golden ticket of what they call salvation. But, I've always said that word salvation that the Christians use is not a real word, because it does not have a definition without that original sin, acceptance of that original sin, which you've been addressing today. And when a word doesn't have its own standalone definition, I have to ask, is this a real word? It's a made-up word linked with other concepts, and their version of salvation sounds attractive to those lost in the exile, if you want to call it that, but in reality, it's a baited word that you can't have any definition to without their version of original sin, which you've talked about how Adam and Eve, and to understand that they stopped people from looking at it.
Adam and Eve, with their sin, changed their characterism. Okay, and we spoke about this. From being a soul very related with God, they became a human with body. So this is something that they inherited to their destinies, the characterism that they changed to become. But no one, and we explained this a lot of times in Genesis chapter 4, how we are reading this chapter, it's not that everyone who is being born with a sin. No, everyone who is being born is a clear page that is starting from the beginning, very clear, very clean. He might did a lot of sins along his life.
You can be a righteous person
for himself, and no, he's not going to pay for any sins for someone else, and he's not going to inherit his sins to others. But he can do repentance. Those are the days of repentance.
Rabbi, I remember when you did that series with me, Freedom to Choose Your Destiny, where you did 5 or 6 episodes talking about, your ability to be able to choose. If you want to become a righteous person, you can put it into practice, folks. You can make that decision and turn in the right direction. And that's what the whole idea of repentance is, teshuvah. And I think that the demands of eternal hell from Christianity undermined the whole ability of teshuvah, of repentance.
Fine. James also had a question, right? What is his question? Sorry.
James's question, his point says, this is how I understand this. He says, I can pass on the legacy of my dysfunction to my children. God is not going to punish my children because of my dysfunction. They will suffer from faulty learning, which will bring emotional pain onto them. Whereas in Abram's regard, his pain came about from lapse in faith in Hashem. And then Anna said something. Anna says, just like how a mamzer will suffer because of their parents' iniquity.
So first of all, I agree with you, James, except for the last word, because Abraham didn't have any lack in faith in God. He was just surprised to be those goodness that is coming to him. But the main thing is, exactly, it will be much harder for my kids because they will suffer, they will have much more difficulties to be back in the right tracks because of my false learning and things that I brought them. But again, I'm going back to the words that Dan said before. Since we have the 100% possibility of free will, so also my kids have the possibility of free will, and they will get bad things that I inherited them, but they have the possibility of changing back. Here we have another very important point that I must mention. but it's again from the oral tradition, it's not written down, that God is testing people only on the test that they are managed to pass it on, to become over this test. Therefore, if my kids came under me and got my false things, just like I maybe got false things from my parents, of course I didn't, because they were, of course, 100% excellent. But if so, those things my kids are able to turn over. This is very important also to know. God is not testing someone in the level that he is not able to do this test. And this is one of the things that I said to in the retreat 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, when I was in the United States.
In Tennessee, yes.
As I started with this thing, I said that all of you are just like Jethro, okay, the father-in-law of Moses. All of the people around the world heard that the Hebrew nation went out from Egypt.
Right.
Okay, but only one did.
It was an international event.
Exactly, but only one person decided to change his life and to come to Moses and to the Hebrew nation and to learn something. Mm-hmm. Okay, and on the same level, I'm saying, all of the nations, all of the people of this world heard that the Hebrew people came to their homeland after 2,000 years. More than that, it wasn't only from one place, from the Egypt land, it was from 200 places all over the world. And all of the world heard that, but only those who are sitting in this class and the Noahide movement we have today on a regular basic connection, more than almost 6,000 people that we are speaking with in each week, okay? Only 6,000 people now, we have more than that in longer, but only 6,000 people on a weekly basis speaking with us and saying, we've heard that the Hebrew people came back to their homeland. Something here is different. Most of the world sitting down on the side and saying to themselves, no, we don't care. So all of you are like Jethro. It's very important. I think that all of the world could come to this level.
Rabbi, can I ask one more question from YouTube?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, this is a big one. Ebenezer's bringing up the question. He says, "Yet we all will die." He says, in a sense, we are paying for what our parents did. That traces back to Adam and Eve.
I will say this again in different words. I said it already. I answered this already, but I will say this again. Adam and Eve, their sin changed their character. Okay? Before their sin, there were souls up there in the heaven. After the sin, because of all sorts of reasons that I'm not going to go inside now, we've learned this a bit.
Yes.
When we learned those chapters, after the sin, or the sin that they did, changed their characters to become a body in this world. Therefore, we are dying because the character changed. Okay? They are not only souls. We are not only souls who are living in heaven. We are body with the soul. We are in a situation where we have the good and evil inside us. Okay? And this is why here in this world, we are dying. By the way, in the Hebrew tradition, we will defeat this thing of dying. And there will be a renewal.
Can you elaborate on that a little? I think that's what the audience is looking for.
I will say it like that. The Bible is not speaking about this a lot. It's only hinting about this.
Right.
And the reason is very simple.
Nobody knows for certain.
Because nobody came back from there. Nobody came back from the death.
Well, didn't Elijah raise one?
We have Elijah, we have Eliyahu, okay, who is coming back and forth to some sort of sages of Israel, okay? Also, lately also, with Rabbi Mordechai Eliyahu, that also passed away 10 years ago, I think he passed away, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. But I know about Elijah, he's a bit unique. He never died also, by the way. It's never said about him that he died. He went up to the heaven as is. But we have, this is why in the Bible, we've learned this a bit in the Kuzari, the Bible is never speaking about what will be the goods that we're going to get in the world to come.
Right.
Because nobody was there. The main thing that the Bible is saying, what goodness you're going to get in this world here, in our world here. But we know, and this is part of the oral tradition, that we will defeat
Death.
the death. Now, I want to show this in one of the. I will show this for a moment in one of the. I want to show this in a verse of.
Excellent. Thanks, Rabbi. Yeah, we're getting good chats up in the YouTube chat room today.
Here it is. Let me share the screen for a moment. No, come on. Isaiah 25, okay. Please read verse number 8.
Verse number 8 says, He has concealed death forever, and the Lord God shall wipe the tears off every face, and the shame of his people he shall remove from upon the entire earth, for the Lord has spoken. I'm sorry, which book is that, Rabbi?
He's speaking about Isaiah, okay, chapter 25, where God is speaking, okay, that he will be back in his place, in his presence in Jerusalem, okay? And one of the things that he's going to do, except for bringing all the people from all over the world and everything else, that he will also conceal death forever. And how the sages of the Hebrew people are reading it is that this is part of the
doing away with the death. Yeah.
This is part of the shame of the Hebrew people, the death, okay? But God, at the end of the days, will conceal death forever, so people won't die. And this is where we will say, please read verse number 9 also.
And they shall say on that day, Behold, this is our God. We hoped for him that he would save us. This is the Lord for whom we hoped. Let us rejoice and be happy with his salvation. So there you go, Cassandra.
Okay.
Orman, I hope that answers your question.
This is I will say, the main prophecy that we are waiting for also. Exactly how it's going to be, I don't know. Maybe it's going to be by the way that the doctors, okay, maybe I'm being very careful, okay, but maybe we can see today. Okay, let's go for a very interesting situation. If I will ask all of you, what was the average age of death?
Mortality rate.
100 years ago, do you know?
Yeah, it was like under 40 years of age.
55. And what is the average of death today?
Yeah, it's about 85, 82, 80, depending on your country.
The women are managing to live a bit more than the people, the men, but this is life. Okay. But so we moved something here in the last 100 years. And the people who are getting born today, they're saying that with the medicine and everything else, they will manage to live 120 years. So something here is moving. Now, I'm not saying that this is the 100% perfect prophecies that we read now, but we see that things are moving to a better stage. So it all depends on us.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of, a human mind being transferred, say, into a more stable body is something that intrigues many minds. I mean, I'm reading a book right now on my weekly broadcast, A Jewish Guide to the Mysterious, and he gets into a lot of topics, but This is definitely one that weighs heavy on a lot of people's hearts out there. Nobody wants to miss the boat, but they don't realize that sin itself is what causes you to miss the boat. And understanding what repentance really is, true teshuvah, turning around your life, actually stopping what you're doing, turning in the right direction. And this is where the Sheva Mitzvot plays a role for us in the 70 nations.
Exactly. Now I need to answer also Jack. Jack, your question is a very good one, but we explained this more than once. It's written down in our tradition that God is not speaking only with the Hebrew people. He's speaking with everyone who is listening, who is preparing himself to listen to God. Okay, we have also prophets in other nations, and the main thing is that I will say it like that: in the Hebrew nation, we have levels: the Kohanim, the Levitics, and the Hebrew people. I have a son-in-law. Okay, one of my daughters got married with a Kohen. Now, this Kohen is have much more obligations than me. This is life. I have less obligations than him, so I can turn all the days and say to myself, be frustrated. He has more than me. He is closer than God to God than me. Also, in the Temple Mount, there are places that he is allowed to go inside, and I'm not allowed. I need to be far from him. Okay. Now I can be frustrated with this, but I can say to myself, no, I have a different role. I have a different mission here. The best way to show this is to ask a very simple question. We need to transport people from one place, from point A to point B. This transportation could be with a car, it could be with a bus, it could be with a boat, it could be with an airplane, okay? Now, each one of those things need someone that will be the person who is in charge of moving those vehicles. The vehicle of the car is only a driver. The vehicle of a bus is someone that is doing a different role. The vehicle or the thing of the boat is, people who knows how to move this big thing inside the water. And those who knows how to fly the airplane are different people. Now, you can say that the pilot of the airplane is a better person than the bus driver? You can't say that. Those are different skills, different people, and they're doing things for different purposes.
Different license too, yes.
Different licenses, okay? And the same thing, you're asking, a Jewish person have more obligations and a different, I will say, mission in life as being a part of the people who are teaching the rest of the world the right path, and you as one who is inside this Noahide movement in a position that you can bring more to the people around you than me, because I will ever will be a foreigner in the United States. Even the rabbis and the Hebrew people in the United States, as I said before, are not in their place. Yeah. And there will be forever
like melting pots over here. Yeah.
In your area. And this is where you're becoming very important, okay, in your area, more than us.
Saying that. So you heard it, everybody. You're all important.
Very important. Yes. Okay, I think I gave an answer. There's one more question I owe to Netzach, and he asked me in the last 2 weeks, and I said to him that I will refer to this here. So I will say this, and it's a very big question about the debates inside the rabbis about the halacha and how to behave. And it's coming through one of the posts that I sent out regarding the keeping the Shabbat. Now, let me say again, we are not, how do you say it in English? We are not pushing people to keep the full Shabbat, okay? We are saying that it's allowed. There are rabbis who are saying that it's not allowed. Fair enough, it's a debate inside the rabbis. And we are not saying that this is a preference to do. We do say it's very important to light candles in the beginning of Shabbat. All of us, I'm saying this again. It's important to light candles in the beginning of Shabbat. Lighting 2 candles in the beginning of Shabbat is showing that I believe that God created this world and he rested in the 7th day. Therefore, I'm doing something. I'm showing that the 7th day is very important. We are we are honoring the Shabbat. The second thing that we are saying as a good advice for people to do on Shabbat is to have a good meal with the family and putting all the devices aside. Take a good meal for 2 hours with your family, with your friends. Put all the devices aside. Discuss between yourself. Doing something different in the Shabbat. Third thing that we are saying to do is to learn from the Parsha, to learn from the Bible, the Old Testament, on Shabbat. And you have it today, the art school and other things. I don't have any percentage from this buying those books. Okay, those are things that we are offering to do. On the other side, we do say that if someone really want to do the Shabbat and keep Shabbat like the Hebrew people, he is a nut, but he can do that because it's very hard, especially when you live inside not in the Jewish community. Now, the question that Netzach asked is about the debates inside the rabbis. Unfortunately, until in the first 1,200 years of the Hebrew sages, of the Hebrew life, since we got the Torah in Mount Sinai, in the first 1,200 years, we didn't have any debates and any arguments. All the argument, there was a system how to close all the arguments. Everybody knew exactly when they have an argument, they went to the court, to the Supreme Court of their tribe, and if it didn't came to a resolve, so they went to the Supreme Court of the Hebrew nation inside the temple. This is how they closed all the arguments. Nobody had the possibility and the permission to disobey the Supreme Court of the Hebrew sages in the Temple Mount. Since we went to outside of the Hebrew nation and we lost the Supreme Court, okay, and it came back and then we lost it again. Since then, we have few main traditions inside the Jewish tradition. And inside this, we have, I would say, a way how to discuss the discussions. And we have also few ways how to behave. The most known one is Ashkenazi and Sfaradi, those who came from Europe and those who came from the Arab area, those who are among the Christian and those who are among the Muslims. But there are also few more insides ways, and all of them are inside the boundaries of the Hebrew tradition. And there is a way and a system how to debate, I will say it like that, if you have a question about the halakha, and who is a more important rabbi and who is a less important rabbi. There are all sorts of ways how to work inside this thing. The one thing that is not allowed is to speak bad words about a rabbi who have a smicha in the right position. Okay, like Rabbi Sherki, like me. By the way, Rabbi Sherki is a much higher level rabbi than me. Not I'm saying this. Also, the chief rabbis of Israel in the last 3 generations are saying, okay, they're saying things about Rabbi Sherki that you can't even imagine. He's getting also all the time offers to do things inside the Hebrew state in a high position, even in the last week. And all the time he is refusing because he wants to stay obligated to the Noachide movement. Okay? I'm saying here's something, a secret thing behind the scenes. It's not a problem for him. He can take a lot of very high, big positions inside Israel, and he's not doing this because he's saying all the time, he's saying, but I'm working with the Noachide community, and we are working hard after, especially also after what we spoke last 2 weeks ago. We are trying very hard to build up an official system in the Hebrew government for the Noachide, and I think that this is also something that will give, I will say, the right attitude with all of the rabbis around, what to say, how to speak, what to speak, and everything else. But this is something that I can't promise that it will happen next month. Okay, it might happen.
Keep working at it, Rabbi. We're rooting for you guys over at the Noahide World Center.
Yes, you will pray for us, and we will do our best for this.
Right on.
All of the letters and meetings and everything else that we are trying to do. But this is something that Netzach, you need to know. Rabbis who are inside this thing. Now, there's also, and this is also something that is happening in the last 70 years, the rabbis in Israel are getting more and more weight, and more the main parts of the Hebrew tradition than the rabbis that are outside from Israel. Okay? The main Torah is inside Israel. And this is something that will get more and more clear and more established, that the main Torah is going to be in Israel. And I won't go inside to this because it's a very complicated situation to explain this, how it's happening and what it is. So the rabbis who are real rabbis, who can show that the certificate that they got their technical thing from the chief rabbis of Israel or whatever it is, this is one thing. There are rabbis who got all sorts of certificates from the rabbis that are inside. There are the rabbis who are leading communities, and there are the rabbis, and there are small people who learned for years in places, and they're speaking very badly about others. They could be, it's their problem to speak like that. I will say another one very important thing. There are a few books for the Noachide people, how to behave. One of the books is the one that we took out, okay, the Brit Shalom. This is in Hebrew.
Brit Shalom, yes.
The Brit Shalom is the only one that I know, okay, that have the recognition, not only the recognition, but also the authentication of the chief rabbis of Israel, of other important rabbis in Israel. More than that, it's not only giving all the
endorsements,
endorsement and recognition. It's not only giving all the sources underneath with all of the notes. At the end of this book in Hebrew, only in Hebrew we did it, but you didn't do this in the other languages. By the way, you can also organize for yourself. You can also order a book in Hebrew and English together, and then you have everything. At the end of this book, very important rabbis in Israel, gave a lot of notes to Rabbi Sherki on his halacha decisions, and Rabbi Sherki answered them. And this is why this book is one of the most reliable books that we have today, because of so many rabbis who are involved, gave endorsement, gave acknowledgement, were very happy and discussed this issue in the right way. Again, very big, important rabbis in Israel. And now I'm not saying that the rest of the books are not good. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this is the things that we are taking out to the Noahide movement, the same we're doing with the prayer book, and the same we're doing with all of the things that we are teaching and doing, that those are things that are reliable, that are related to the connection of the Hebrew tradition. So there are rabbis who think differently, or still in the boundaries of the Hebrew sages, or doing things differently. And this is what we ask them all the time. You can say things different.
We're overjoyed to hear you're working through it.
But fine. But there is a way how to discuss the halachic issues, and you can decide that you're going in a different path, show your sources, and discuss them. The most funniest thing was that one of the people on the last post that I took out of the Shabbat, that he wrote down with a very big knowledge about things. And he said to me, I referred him to we have on YouTube, Rabbi Sherki is explaining in Hebrew all the source and everything about the Shabbat. And then I recorded in English part of the things. And I sent him to those places. And he said to me, but it's worthless because I'm working on this and this and this, and they're the main people. So I said to him, don't forget that there's also this and this and this, and there are not less many people than the others, the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, and also the father, this person that you said, and the others. So if you want to learn the truth, and he's not even a Jewish person. If you want to learn the truth, learn it inside, in depth thing, and you can decide to go on the path of the other rabbis, it's okay, but you need to be in the boundaries of the rabbis. And there's a way how the rabbis are debating. They are not debating. I will give another example. Angela and Mike, they had a problem there in England, and they referred to Rabbi, what's his name?
Rabbi Abel.
Rabbi Abel. And Rabbi Abel had a very serious halachic problem. I won't even go inside to this, okay? He had a very serious problem. He didn't ask us for no reason. He asked the permission from Rabbi Sherki, okay? And we had a discussion, Rabbi Sherki and me, about the serious problem that he had. And this is, after we discussed it, we gave him an answer. And this is how things are working. When someone have a good question, and it's not simple to do something, because maybe he's going to go out from the boundaries of the halacha. Maybe he's going to do, I don't want to go inside to what the problem was. He didn't even explain to Mike and Angela what was his problem, right? He just said, I have a problem. I want that Rabbi Sherki will allow me to do this thing. And we understood exactly what his problem was. And we discussed it, and we answered it. And this is what he said, fine. And this is how things are working. When someone have a problem, he is raising it up in front of a greater rabbi, and we're discussing those things, we're deciding those things, and we're answering those things, and we have explanations of the things that we're deciding, and why we're deciding them. We have the sources why we're going with and everything else. And there are sometimes that other rabbis think differently. It's okay in the boundaries of the discussions. Let the rabbis have the debates between the rabbis.
Some people online asking where can they get the interlinear version of the Brit Shalom with the Hebrew and the English side by side. I'm trying to find a link online, and I mean there's so many accessible links nowadays for
let me try to find it. Let me see if I'm finding it in a moment. Let me see if I can find it straight ahead. Let me see if I can find it straight ahead.
If you can copy it in the chat box here.
No.
Like I found one on Amazon that's $20 more than the rest. It's $61. Well, Canadian,
but look,
anyways.
In the Amazon, put it up on the screen. I will tell you if this is the English one.
Let me see. I can't. Here. Oh, here's the Greek and it's got a blue cover. I think I found it. Interlinear.
It says Hebrew and English. Just a moment. I'll look at this.
This one says Hebrew and English. Interlinear Hebrew, Greek, English. Oh no, that's just a Greek. Never mind. That's got not the Brit Shalom. There's so many copies out there, and I can't.
Yeah, I know. We have 11 languages or 12 languages. By the way, just a moment.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we took it out, Hebrew and English, I asked someone to send me the link. I hope he will send me in the next coming 2 minutes. Okay. One of the reasons why we took out Hebrew and English together is because we know that in the United States, part of the rabbis, they know Hebrew good enough, well enough, and some of them have a lot of questions about the path that we are taking. So we said, let's give them the Hebrew English. They will manage to see exactly, and if they have questions, they know how to deal with us in the right way. How to discuss things between the sages
Right.
of the Hebrew nation.
I remember going back 18 months ago when I was still broadcasting with Rabbi Moshe Shulman in Brooklyn, and he'd already gone through it in Hebrew, and I was reading the English version when it first came out that you'd sent, and yeah, he had no difficulty with the Hebrew. He understood exactly where you were coming from, Rabbi Moshe Shulman in Brooklyn. Wonderful, Rabbi.
Yes, yes. And he does, by the way, he's also a good rabbi, a great rabbi, and everything else, and he doesn't agree with us about
On
the Shabbat,
certain points.
Certain points, he doesn't agree with us. It's okay. He doesn't say that we can't sit down together in my office, and we sat down more than once, and we spoke about things, and we discussed things, and there are things that we see differently. It's okay. Fine.
Well, I think James is saying it correctly. He just wants to be trained up right. And that's the sentiment, I'm sure, of everybody out there on social media. We want to be trained up right, and we want to feel that we are being cared about and are being directed correctly. And direction seems reliable and verifiable. I think way to say it, James.
So I think that when you see that we have the chief rabbis of Israel, and we have the recognition and endorsement of other great rabbis in Israel, so you know that you're in the right path of the, as it says, okay, in the
prophecies.
I will go back to the prophecies. I will go back to the prophecies. I think that will be a great point to end this. I have to. It's okay. I'll go back to the prophecies of Ishaya. Okay, and let's read for a moment in chapter 2. This is a prophecy that is coming back also in other places. Okay, when it says very clear and very simple. Okay, at the word of it that Ishaya, the son of Amos, okay,
prophesied concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Yeah. And it shall be at the end of days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be firmly established at the top of the mountains, and it shall be raised above the hills, and all the nations shall stream into it. And many people shall go, and they shall say, Come, let us go up to the Lord's mount, to the house of the God of Jacob, and let him teach us of his ways, and we will go in his paths. For out of Zion shall the Torah come forth, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem.
No, we need to read also verse number 4. First of all, here we're speaking about very simple, okay? When you're asking James, you want to be properly and everything else. This is what you see now, that the word of the law of God is coming from Zion and is coming from Jerusalem, okay?
And he shall judge between the nations and reprove many peoples. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. And I think that's what we all agree we want to see.
Fine. And now you can feel comfortable that when you're going after the sages of the Hebrew nation from Israel, this is where you can feel comfortable you're in the right path. Okay. I think what we have, unless someone wants to mention something else, I have another 2-3 minutes, but basically I think that this is good for today. I think that we can release.
I have a quick question, and it may seem to be simple, too simple. Some Noahides wear a kippah, and some don't. Which is, I don't know if it's a choice. Is it appropriate? That's all I want to know. Is it appropriate?
It depends on what you feel. Okay, it's not obligated. But if you feel that this is giving you with yourself, okay, that you can feel that there's something above you and it's reminding you, so wear a kippah. It's not obligated to no height, and it's more than fine where people are feeling this. It's the same thing, for example, with the mezuzah. Okay, we know about Noahites who want to put mezuzah on their homes. Now, is it obligated? No. It's written down in the Brit Shalom also. But there are Noahites who are putting the mezuzah. Fine. Angela, did you saw my email? Angelica, did you saw my email?
Did I see your email about?
Okay. Look in your email. I sent you an email a few minutes before
Oh,
the lesson started. Okay.
Wow.
Very important one, and give me.
Well, Rabbi, it's been a great lesson today. You get a lot of congratulations on the YouTube page. A lot of people have enjoyed the class today so far. It's beautiful. So, Hashem willing, are we on for the same time next Sunday?
Next Sunday. See you all. Yes. Have a great week. And
All right, folks. So there you go. You have it from Jerusalem.
And don't be hard. If you want to ask questions, you know my email. Send me questions. Even if I'm not answering straight ahead, I'm answering here inside the lesson.
And they can always find you on your website, Bible Verse of Today.
Also, yes, as usual. Yes.
BibleVerseOfToday.com, folks.
Yes,
That's
even
Rabbi
though-
Chaim's
yes.
website. And so until next week, we're going to sign off, and we hope you all have a blessed week. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.